Lucy Martinez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she tuned her violin. The sun was hot in downtown Phoenix, and the concrete sidewalk made everything feel even hotter. She had been playing music on this same street corner for 3 years now, ever since she turned 9. Most people walked by without stopping, but some dropped coins into her open violin case. On good days, she made enough money to help her mom buy groceries. Today felt different, though. Lucy could not explain why, but something in the air seemed to vibrate when she played. She had noticed it yesterday, too, but thought maybe she was just tired. Now, she was sure something strange was happening. She placed her violin under her chin and started playing Despacito. It was one of her favorite songs, and people always seemed to like it. The melody flowed from her fingers like water, smooth and natural. She had learned to play by ear, listening to songs on the radio, and figuring out how to make the same sounds on her violin dot as the music filled the air. Lucy noticed the usual crowd starting to gather. A businessman in a suit stopped to listen. A woman with a baby stroller smiled and swayed to the music. An old man sat down on a nearby bench and closed his eyes. But there were others, too. People who looked different. People who made Lucy feel a little nervous. One person wore a long coat that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Another had skin that looked almost blue in the shadows. A third person was very tall and thin, taller than anyone Lucy had ever seen. They all watched her with intense eyes, like they were studying every note she played. Lucy kept playing, but she could feel something building. The air around her violin seemed to hum with energy. The strings vibrated in ways that felt impossible. She had played this song hundreds of times, but never like this. Never with this kind of power flowing through the music. 300 miles above Earth, something was happening that Lucy could not see or understand. Inside a large spacecraft that looked like a giant seashell, an alien named Zektar was staring at his instruments with complete shock. He had been studying music from different planets for over 200 years. He thought he understood everything about sound and harmony. But the readings coming from Earth made no sense. The acoustic signature showing on his screens was mathematically perfect. The harmonic frequencies were more complex than anything his advanced civilization had ever created. Yet the signal was coming from what appeared to be a simple street performance by a young human child. Zektar's forearms moved quickly across his control panels. He recorded every note, every vibration, every impossible sound wave that came from the small human. Below, his colleagues would never believe this without proof. A primitive species was creating music that surpassed their greatest achievements. Back on the street, Lucy finished Despacito and looked down at her violin case. Something was wrong. Instead of the usual coins and dollar bills, she saw objects she had never seen before. Small metallic discs that seemed to glow. Crystalline shapes that looked like jewelry but felt warm to the touch. A small device that hummed softly when she picked it up. The strange people in the crowd were still watching her. The tall, thin one stepped forward and made a gesture with his hands. Lucy did not understand what it meant, but somehow she felt that he was trying to thank her. The person with the shimmering coat nodded slowly and pointed to the violin. The blue-skinned woman actually had tears in her eyes. Lucy felt scared and excited at the same time. She knew these people were not normal, but they did not seem dangerous. They seemed amazed by her music, more amazed than anyone had ever been before. She decided to play another song. This time she chose a slower piece, something her grandmother had taught her years ago. As she played, the strange vibrations in the air became even stronger. Her violin seemed to sing with a voice of its own. The music wrapped around everyone, listening like a warm blanket. The businessman, who had stopped to listen, was now sitting on the ground, completely lost in the music. The woman with the baby stroller was crying, but they were happy tears. The old man on the bench was nodding along as if the music was speaking directly to his heart. But the strangest thing was happening with the unusual people in the crowd. They were communicating with each other without words. The tall, thin one would tilt his head, and the blue-skinned woman would respond by touching her chest. The person in the shimmering coat would make small gestures, and the others would nod in understanding. Lucy realized that her music was somehow helping them talk to each other. She did not know how or why, but she could feel it happening. The notes from her violin were building bridges between minds, creating connections that went beyond normal language. Across the city, Captain Jake Phillips was having a very strange day. He commanded a small space station that orbited Earth, watching for any signs of alien activity. For years, his job had been boring. Earth was considered a backwater planet by most of the galaxy. Nothing important ever happened here, but today his communication systems were going crazy. He was receiving signals from ships he could not see, messages in languages he could not understand, and requests for landing permits from species he had never heard of. All the signals seemed to be focused on one location, downtown Phoenix. Ran his hands through his hair and stared at his screens. According to his instruments, at least 12 different alien vessels were approaching Earth. None of them were showing hostile intentions, but they were all heading for the same coordinates. A street corner where, according to city records, a young girl played violin for tips. Lucy finished her second song and looked around at the crowd. More people had gathered, and some of them were definitely not human. She was sure of it now. But instead of feeling afraid, she felt proud. Her music was doing something special, something that brought different kinds of people together. She raised her violin again and began to play Despacito one more time. But this time, something incredible happened. The strange people in the crowd began to hum along, not with human voices, but with sounds that seemed to come from their very souls. The music became a conversation between species, a language that needed no translation. As the last notes faded away, Lucy looked up at the sky. She could not see them, but somehow she knew that others were listening. Others who had traveled great distances just to hear her play. Her simple street performance had become something much bigger than she could ever imagine. The discovery that would change everything had already begun. Lucy woke up the next morning thinking about the strange people who had watched her play. She had counted the unusual objects in her violin case 3 times before going to bed. The glowing discs were still warm, and the humming device had finally gone quiet during the night. Her mother had asked about them, but Lucy did not know what to say. How could she explain something she did not understand herself? She decided to go back to her usual street corner earlier than normal. Maybe the strange people would return. Maybe she could understand what was happening to her music. Lucy grabbed her violin case and walked the 6 blocks from her apartment to downtown Phoenix. When she arrived at her corner, she was surprised to find someone already waiting for her. A woman in a dark suit stood near the spot where Lucy always played. She had short black hair and kind eyes, but she looked serious and important. The woman approached Lucy with a gentle smile. "Hello, Lucy. My name is Dr. Amy Rodriguez. I work for the government, and I need to talk to you about what happened here yesterday." Lucy felt nervous. "Am I in trouble?" "I have a permit to play music here." Dr. Rodriguez shook her head quickly. No, you are not in trouble at all. In fact, you might have done something amazing, something that could help a lot of people. She looked around the empty street corner. "Can you tell me about the people who listened to your music yesterday? The ones who looked different?" Lucy set down her violin case and thought carefully. They were not like regular people. One was very tall, and another had blue skin. They left strange things in my case. She opened the case and showed Dr. Rodriguez the glowing objects. Dr. Rodriguez examined the objects without touching them. Her eyes grew wide. "Lucy, these are not from Earth. The people who gave them to you were not from Earth either. They were visitors from other planets. And your music did something special that made them want to communicate with you." Before Lucy could ask more questions, she noticed people gathering again. The same crowd from yesterday was returning, but now there were even more of them. The tall, thin person was back, along with the blue-skinned woman and the one in the shimmering coat. But now they had brought friends. Dr. Rodriguez stepped back and spoke quietly into a small device. Command, this is Rodriguez. The subjects are returning. I count at least 15 non-human entities. They appear peaceful and focused on the child musician. Lucy felt less afraid this time. She recognized some faces from yesterday, and they had been kind to her. She took out her violin and looked at Dr. Rodriguez. Should I play for them? Yes, Dr. Rodriguez said softly, but I want you to pay attention to how they react. Notice if they do anything special when you play certain songs. Lucy placed her violin under her chin and began with a simple melody. As soon as the first notes filled the air, something amazing happened. The strange people began to relax. Their bodies' language changed. Some of them sat down on the ground, others swayed gently to the music, but the most incredible thing was happening between them. Lucy could see them looking at each other with understanding. When she played high notes, the tall, thin person would nod to the blue-skinned woman. When she played low notes, the person in the shimmering coat would gesture. To others in the group, Dr. Rodriguez was taking notes frantically. She could see what Lucy was seeing. The music was creating a form of communication between the aliens. They were using the mathematical patterns in the sound waves to share thoughts and feelings. Lucy decided to test something. She began playing Despacito, the same song that had caused the strange vibrations yesterday. The effect was immediate and powerful. The air around her violin began to hum with energy again, and this time she could see it affecting everyone. The aliens in the crowd stood up straighter. Their eyes became bright and focused. Some of them began making soft sounds that harmonized with Lucy's playing. It was like they were singing along, but with voices that sounded like wind chimes and flowing water. Dr. Rodriguez felt tears in her eyes. She was witnessing the first true communication between humans and alien species. Not through technology or translators, but through the universal language of music. One of the aliens, a being with silver skin and large dark eyes, stepped forward. It looked directly at Lucy and began to make a series of musical tones. The sounds were beautiful, like nothing Lucy had ever heard before. Without thinking, Lucy began to play along with the alien song. Her violin picked up the melody and added harmony to it. The result was music that seemed to come from another world. Literally, the other aliens joined in, each adding their own voice to the growing symphony. The regular humans in the crowd stood amazed, listening to a concert that no one on Earth had ever experienced before. Dr. Rodriguez realized she was witnessing history. This young street performer had achieved what scientists and diplomats had only dreamed of. She was communicating with alien species through pure musical expression. Song continued for several minutes, with Lucy and the aliens creating melodies together. When it finally ended, the silver-skinned being approached Lucy's violin case and placed a small object inside. This one was different from the others. It looked like a tiny musical instrument, carved from some kind of crystal. Lucy picked up the crystal instrument and found that it made beautiful sounds when she touched it. The alien nodded and pointed to Lucy, then to itself, then to the sky. Lucy understood. This was a gift, a token of friendship from one musician to another. More aliens were arriving now. Dr. Rodriguez counted over 30 different beings, all gathering to hear Lucy play. Some looked almost human, others were completely different. But they all shared the same expression of wonder and joy when they listened to her music. Lucy played for 2 more hours, learning new melodies from her alien audience and teaching them human songs in return. Each song created different types of communication. Fast songs made them excited and energetic. Slow songs made them calm and thoughtful. Sad songs brought them together and shared emotion. By the end of the day, Lucy had learned something incredible. Music was not just entertainment. It was a language that could speak to any intelligent being, no matter where they came from or what they looked like. Dr. Rodriguez knew that everything had changed. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and humanity's first contact with Alien life had happened through the violin of a 12-year-old street performer. As the aliens began to leave, each one stopped to look at Lucy and make a small bow. They were thanking her for the gift of music, for showing them that different species could understand each other through harmony and melody. Lucy packed up her violin, her case now full of strange and wonderful gifts from across the galaxy. She did not know it yet, but she had just become Earth's first musical ambassador to the stars. Word spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within 3 days of Lucy's first contact with the aliens, spacecraft from dozens of different worlds were heading toward Earth. The news traveled through alien communication networks with a simple message. A young human had discovered the pure sound. Lucy did not know about the ships coming toward Earth. She was too busy trying to understand what was happening in her own city. Every day, more aliens arrived at her street corner. Some looked almost human. Others were so different that Lucy had to remind herself they were intelligent beings. But they all wanted the same thing. They wanted to hear her play. Dr. Rodriguez had set up a small command post in a coffee shop across the street from Lucy's corner. She watched through binoculars as representatives from species she had never seen before gathered to listen to a 12-year-old girl play violin. Her reports to the government were getting stranger every day. Commander Ryan Burke arrived in Phoenix on the 4th day. He was a military man who usually dealt with threats to Earth security. But this was not a threat. This was something completely new. He met with Dr. Rodriguez to understand what they were dealing with. How many different species have you identified? Burke asked, looking through the coffee shop window at the growing crowd. 43 so far, Dr. Rodriguez replied. And more arrive every few hours. They are not invading. They are making pilgrimages. They see Lucy as something special, something sacred. Burke watched as Lucy began her morning performance. The effect was immediate. Aliens who had been standing in separate groups suddenly moved closer to each other. Their body language changed from cautious to peaceful. Some began swaying to the music. Others made soft sounds that added to the melody. What exactly is she doing to them? Burke asked. Dr. Rodriguez pointed to her instruments. She is creating mathematical harmonies that allow direct emotional communication between species. When she plays, they can feel what each other are feeling. They can share thoughts without words. It is like she turns music into a universal translator for emotions. Lucy had noticed the human officials watching her, but she was more interested in her growing alien audience. She had learned that different songs affected them in different ways. Classical music made them thoughtful and quiet. Pop songs made them excited and happy. But her favorite discovery was that when she played songs from her heart, songs that meant something special to her, the aliens could feel those emotions too. Today, she decided to try something new. Instead of playing songs she already knew, she would create new music based on what she felt from her alien audience. She closed her eyes and let her violin respond to the emotions around her. The melody that came from her violin was unlike anything she had ever played before. It started soft and curious, like a question being asked. The aliens responded with their own sounds, and Lucy added those sounds to her music. Soon she was playing a conversation between dozens of different species, all speaking through harmony and rhythm. A new group of aliens arrived while Lucy was playing. These were different from the others. They moved with purpose and authority. Dr. Rodriguez recognized them from government briefings as members of the Galactic Council, the closest thing to a government that existed between the stars. The leader of the council group was a being that looked like it was made of living crystal. It stood taller than the other aliens and seemed to glow with inner light. When Lucy's music reached this being, something amazing happened. The crystal alien began to sing. Its voice was like nothing anyone had ever heard. It sounded like wind through mountains, like water over stones, like the music of the stars themselves. Lucy's violin picked up the alien song and made it even more beautiful. The other aliens in the crowd fell silent. They all knew who this being was. It was Melodic Prime, the greatest musician in the known galaxy. It had come to Earth specifically to hear the human child who had achieved something no one thought possible. Lucy did not know she was playing with a galactic celebrity. She only knew that this new voice made her music feel complete. Together, they created a song that seemed to speak to every living being that heard it. Commander Burke felt tears on his cheeks. Dr. Rodriguez was crying openly. Even the human crowd that had gathered to watch was moved to emotions they could not explain. The music spoke directly to their hearts, bypassing their minds completely. When the song ended, Melodic Prime approached Lucy. It moved slowly and carefully, as if approaching something precious and fragile. It knelt down so that its crystalline face was level with Lucy's eyes. The crystal being reached into a pouch and pulled out an object that made everyone gasp. It was a tuning fork made of the same crystal material as Melodic Prime's body. The fork glowed with soft light and hummed with perfect pitch. Melodic Prime held the tuning fork out to Lucy. She understood this was a gift, but she also sensed it was much more than that. This was recognition. This was an invitation. This was acceptance. Into something bigger than she could imagine. Lucy took the crystal tuning fork and touched it gently with her finger. The sound that came from it was perfect. More perfect than any note she had ever heard. When she held it near her violin strings, her instrument began to resonate with new harmonies. Dr. Rodriguez was taking notes as fast as she could write. This was not just first contact anymore. This was an initiation ceremony. Lucy was being welcomed into some kind of galactic musical community. More ships appeared in the sky above Phoenix. The news reports were calling it an invasion, but Commander Burke knew better. This was a celebration. Species from across the galaxy were coming to witness something that had never happened before. Lucy played until sunset, surrounded by beings from worlds she could not imagine. Each song brought new aliens into the musical conversation. Each melody created new connections between species that had never been able to communicate before. As the day ended, Lucy looked at the crowd around her. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of worlds, all brought together by music. All connected through the simple act of a human child playing violin on a street corner. She did not know that her performance today had been broadcast across the galaxy. She did not know that billions of beings on thousands of worlds had listened to her music and felt hope for the first time in centuries. All Lucy knew was that tomorrow she would come back to this corner and play again. Because now she understood that her music was not just for tips or entertainment. Her music was building bridges between worlds, creating understanding where none had existed before. Earth was no longer just another planet. It had become the center of something wonderful, and it all started with a street performer playing Despacito for anyone who would listen. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Lucy was setting up her violin as usual when the sky suddenly went dark. Massive ships blocked out the sun, their black holes absorbing all light and sound. The peaceful aliens who had been gathering to hear her play scattered in terror. Dr. Rodriguez grabbed her radio. "Command, we have a problem. Unknown hostile vessels have arrived. The friendly aliens are fleeing." Commander Burke was already running toward Lucy's street corner when his communication device crackled to life. "All units, this is General Lisa Thompson. We are under attack by an unknown alien force. They are jamming all our frequencies, and our weapons are not working." Lucy stood frozen in the middle of the street, her violin clutched in her hands. The dark ships hovering above made no sound at all. The silence was more frightening than any noise could have been. She had grown used to the constant hum of friendly alien ships, but these vessels seemed to eat sound itself. A beam of light shot down from the largest ship, and a group of beings appeared in the street. They were tall and thin, covered in black armor that seemed to absorb everything around it. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but Lucy could feel their anger and hatred. One of the armored beings stepped forward and spoke in a voice that hurt to hear. "The noisemakers will stop. The chaos will end. We are the silencers, and we bring order to the galaxy. Dr. Rodriguez tried to step between Lucy and the silencers, but the aliens moved faster than human eyes could follow. They surrounded Lucy in seconds, their weapons pointed at her violin. "The instrument of disorder will be destroyed," the lead silencer announced. "The source of acoustic pollution will be eliminated." Lucy felt more afraid than she had ever been in her life. But she also felt angry. These beings wanted to destroy her music, the thing that had brought so much joy and connection to the galaxy. She raised her violin to her chin. "No," she said quietly, "music is not noise. Music is friendship." The silencer raised his weapon, but before he could fire, Lucy began to play. She chose the most beautiful melody she knew, a lullaby her grandmother had taught her years ago. The notes flowed from her violin like liquid silver. Something incredible happened. The silencer's weapon began to spark and smoke. The alien stumbled backward, his armor crackling with energy. The other silencers raised their weapons, but the same thing happened to them. Lucy's music was somehow disrupting their technology. Commander Burke and his soldiers arrived just as the silencers retreated back to their ship. "What just happened?" Burke asked Dr. Rodriguez. "I think Lucy's music interferes with their systems," she replied, checking her instruments. The silencers use technology based on perfect acoustic isolation, complete silence. Lucy's music creates vibrations that their equipment cannot handle. General Thompson's voice came over the radio. "All units, the hostile ships are retreating. But our satellites show more coming. Hundreds of them. We need solutions fast." Lucy was still playing, but now she was playing angry music. Music that expressed her frustration with beings who wanted to destroy something beautiful. As her emotions grew stronger, her music became more powerful. Sparks flew from nearby electronic devices. Car alarms began going off. Even the ground seemed to vibrate with her melody. Dr. Rodriguez realized what was happening. "Lucy, your music is getting stronger. The madder you get, the more your violin affects technology around you." "Good," Lucy said, not stopping her playing. "If they want to fight music, then music will fight back." News of the silencer attack spread around the world within hours. But more importantly, word spread about Lucy's discovery. Her music could disrupt the enemy's technology. General Thompson called an emergency meeting of world leaders. "We need every musician we can find," Thompson announced to the assembled leaders. "Street performers, garage bands, school orchestras, anyone who can play an instrument. The girl in Phoenix has shown us how to fight back." Within days, musicians from around the world were arriving in major cities. Danny Walsh, a young man who played guitar on the streets of New York, was one of the first to respond. He had been busking for 5 years and always believed that music could change the world. Now he had a chance to prove it. Lucy worked with Dr. Rodriguez to teach the new arrivals what she had learned. Different types of music affected the silencers in different ways. Loud, energetic music disrupted their weapons. Soft, emotional music interfered with their communication systems. Complex harmonies made their ships unstable. The most important discovery was that the music had to be played with real feeling. Recorded music or artificial sounds had no effect on the silencers. It had to come from the heart of a human musician, played with genuine emotion and creativity. Danny Walsh proved to be especially talented at this. His guitar playing combined with Lucy's violin created harmonies that made silencer technology fail completely. Other musicians added their own instruments, creating a symphony of resistance. The final battle came 3 weeks later. The silencer fleet returned to Earth with over 1,000 ships. They descended on major cities around the world, determined to silence human music forever. But they were met by something they had never encountered before. In New York, Danny Walsh and 50 other street musicians played on rooftops and street corners. In London, a 1,000-piece orchestra performed in Trafalgar Square. In Tokyo, traditional Japanese musicians joined with rock bands to create new forms of musical warfare. Lucy stood on her street corner in Phoenix, surrounded by musicians from around the world. She raised her violin and began to play Despacito, the song that had started everything. The melody was picked up by guitars, drums, flutes, and instruments from every culture on Earth. The music rose into the sky like a wave of pure sound. The silencer ships began to shake and spark. Their perfect silence was broken by the chaos and beauty of human musical expression. One by one, their vessels lost power and crashed to the ground. The lead silencer ship tried to escape, but it was surrounded by the combined music of 10,000 human musicians. The harmony was so powerful that the ship's engines exploded, sending the vessel spinning out of control. As the last silencer ship fell from the sky, musicians around the world continued to play. They played for victory, for peace, for the right to make beautiful noise in a universe that had tried to silence them. Lucy looked up at the clear sky and smiled. Music had won. Humanity had proven that some things were worth fighting for, and the most important battles were fought not with weapons, but with the power of human creativity and emotion. 6 months after the defeat of the silencers, Lucy's street corner had become the most famous place on Earth. Tourists came from around the world to see where the girl with the violin had saved humanity. But for Lucy, it was still just her favorite place to play music. The victory over the silencers had changed everything. Governments around the world realized that music was not just entertainment anymore. It was a weapon, a tool for communication, and a bridge between worlds. They wanted to study it, control it, and use it for their own purposes. Dr. Rodriguez had been promoted to head of the new Department of Musical Diplomacy. She worked with Lucy every day, trying to understand how human music could do things that science said were impossible. But the more they studied it, the more mysterious it became. Lucy, can you explain why your music affects alien technology? Dr. Rodriguez asked during one of their sessions. Lucy shrugged and tuned her violin. I do not know. I just play what I feel. When I am happy, the music makes others happy. When I am angry, the music fights back. It is like the violin knows what I want it to do. Danny Walsh had moved to Phoenix to work with Lucy. He was amazed by how natural everything seemed to her. For him, learning to disrupt alien technology with his guitar had taken weeks of practice. For Lucy, it was as easy as breathing. She does not think about it, Danny explained to Dr. Rodriguez. Most musicians learn rules and techniques. Lucy just plays from her heart. That is why her music is so powerful. The friendly aliens had returned to Earth after the silencer defeat. They were more excited than ever about human music. Melodic. Prime, the crystal being who had given Lucy the tuning fork, had proposed something incredible to the Galactic Council. Earth would become the first interstellar harmony academy. Young beings from across the galaxy would come to learn about music from human teachers. It would be a place where different species could study the art of emotional communication through sound. General Thompson was not sure about the idea. Are we ready to have alien students living on Earth? She asked during a meeting with world leaders. The alternative is worse, replied President Martinez, who had been elected partly because of his support for Lucy and the music program. If we do not teach them our music, they might develop their own weapons based on sound. We need to stay ahead of that possibility. Lucy was excited about the academy idea, but she had one condition. The school should not be in some big building with fancy equipment. She told the adults planning it. Music belongs on the street, where real people can hear it. The academy should be here, in downtown Phoenix, where it all started. Dr. Kevin Martinez, Lucy's older brother, had returned from college to help with the project. He had always thought Lucy's street performing was a waste of time. Now he was leading the scientific research team, studying her abilities. I still cannot believe my little sister saved the world with her violin, Kevin said to Dr. Rodriguez. When we were kids, I used to complain that her practicing was too loud. The research team had made some important discoveries. Human music was unique in the galaxy because it combined mathematical precision with emotional expression. Most alien species were good at one or the other, but not both. Humans had evolved to be natural musical mathematicians. Our brains process rhythm and melody in ways that create perfect harmonic equations, Kevin explained to Lucy. But you do it without thinking about the math. Your emotions automatically create the right mathematical patterns. Lucy did not really understand all the science, but she knew that her music was helping people. Every day, aliens came to her street corner to learn from her. Some were diplomats trying to improve communication with other species. Others were musicians wanting to understand the human approach to harmony. The most interesting students were the young aliens. They learned faster than the adults and seemed to understand Lucy's teaching methods better. She taught them the same way she had learned, by listening and feeling, rather than studying rules and theory. One of her favorite students was a young melodian named Hunter. His species communicated entirely through musical tones, but they had never learned to combine their natural abilities with the mathematical precision that humans used. Play like you are talking to your best friend, Lucy would tell Hunter. Do not worry about making perfect sounds. Just say what you feel. Under Lucy's guidance, Hunter learned to create music that could communicate with dozens of different alien species. He became the first non-human to master what the scientists were calling universal harmonic language. The Galactic Council officially declared Earth a neutral territory where interspecies conflicts will be resolved through musical dialogue instead of warfare. They established the first interstellar embassy in Phoenix, just 3 blocks from Lucy's street corner. Commander Burke, now promoted to colonel, was put in charge of security for the embassy. He had learned to appreciate music in ways he never expected. I used to think music was just noise, he admitted to Lucy. Now I know it might be the most important thing humans ever created. Lucy's original violin, the same one she had used for busking since she was 9 years old, was put on display in the embassy's main hall. It sat in a place of honor, surrounded by musical instruments from dozens of different worlds. But Lucy still played it every day. She refused all offers to get a newer, more expensive violin. This one knows all my songs, she would say. We are a team. The Academy officially opened on the first anniversary of the Silencer defeat. Students came from over 50 different worlds to study human musical techniques. The campus was not a traditional school building, but rather a collection of outdoor stages and practice areas scattered throughout downtown Phoenix. Lucy was named the Academy's first professor of emotional harmony, even though she was only 13 years old. Her classes were always held on her original street corner, where students from across the galaxy gathered to learn the secrets of music that came from the heart. Danny Walsh became the professor of street performance techniques. He taught alien students how to read crowds, adapt to different audiences, and put genuine feeling into their music. Dr. Rodriguez watched from her office window as Lucy conducted her afternoon class. 23 different alien species sat in a circle around the young girl, all trying to learn how to make their instruments sing with human emotion. The sight still amazed her. A street performer who had started playing for tips was now teaching the galaxy's most advanced civilizations how to communicate through music. Earth had become the center of a new kind of civilization, one based on harmony rather than conflict. 5 years had passed since Lucy first played Despacito for an audience that included beings from other worlds. She was 17 now, taller and more confident, but she still came to her street corner every Saturday morning to play music for anyone who wanted to listen. The corner looked different these days. The city had built a small stage and put up benches for the crowds that gathered every week. Street vendors sold food from dozens of different planets. Alien tourists took pictures next to the plaque that marked the spot where interstellar musical diplomacy had begun, but Lucy insisted that the heart of the place remained the same. No tickets were sold. No reservations were required. Anyone could come and listen. Just like in the old days when she was busking for grocery money. Dr. Rodriguez, now the director of global musical relations, still came to watch Lucy's performances. She never got tired of seeing how music could bring together beings who had nothing else in common except the ability to appreciate harmony and melody. Some things never change, Dr. Rodriguez said to Danny Walsh as they watched Lucy tune her violin. She still plays with the same passion she had when she was 12. Danny had become famous in his own right. His guitar techniques were taught in music schools across the galaxy, but he always made time to join Lucy for her Saturday performances. Their musical partnership had helped save the world, and their friendship had only grown stronger over the years. Lucy taught me that music is not about being perfect, Danny said. It is about being real. That is why the aliens respond to her so strongly. She never tries to impress them. She just shares what is in her heart. Captain Ben Foster stood at the edge of the crowd, wearing the uniform of the human exploration vessel Wandering Minstrel. His ship was one of the first to carry former street performers as cultural ambassadors to alien worlds. They had just returned from a successful mission to establish musical communication with a newly discovered species. We played Lucy's original recording of Despacito for the Crystal Wing people, Foster reported to Dr. Rodriguez. Within hours, they were creating their own versions of the song. Music really is a universal language. Lucy began her performance with a new song she had been working on. It combined melodies from 6 different alien cultures with the rhythm of traditional Earth music. As she played, beings from across the galaxy joined in with their own instruments and voices dotting the crowd. Mumter sat with his own group of students. He had graduated from the Harmony Academy and was now teaching other young melodians how to communicate with different species through music. Lucy had been his teacher, but he had also taught her about the musical traditions of his people. Master Lucy still plays like she is having a conversation with each person in the audience, Mumter explained to his students. She makes everyone feel like the music is being created just for them. A group of silencer refugees sat quietly near the back of the crowd. After their defeat, many silencers had been curious about the music they had tried to destroy. Some had even learned to appreciate the beauty of sound and harmony. They were still learning to understand music, but Lucy welcomed them just like everyone else. Dr. Kevin Martinez watched his sister from his office in the nearby research center. He had spent 5 years studying the science behind her abilities, but he still could not fully explain how she did what she did. Her music created mathematical equations that should have been impossible to produce with a simple violin. The more we study her, the more questions we have, Kevin said to his research team. She breaks the rules of physics, but she does it so naturally that it seems normal. President Martinez, no relation to Lucy despite sharing her last name, had made musical diplomacy the cornerstone of his foreign policy. Earth now had peaceful relationships with over 200 alien civilizations, all based on the principles Lucy had discovered on her street corner. That young woman has done more for world peace than any politician or general in history, the president said during a speech at the United Nations. She proved that the things that connect us are stronger than the things that divide us. Lucy finished her first song and looked out at the crowd. She saw faces from dozens of worlds, all brought together by their love of music. Some were old friends who came every week. Others were new visitors experiencing human street performance for the first time. She decided to play Despacito, the song that had started everything. As the familiar melody filled the air, something magical happened. Every being in the crowd, human and alien alike, began to sing along in their own way. The humans sang the Spanish lyrics they had learned from Lucy over the years. The melodians added harmonic tones that made the melody richer. The crystal beings created percussion sounds with their bodies. Even the former silencers hummed quietly along. Lucy closed her eyes and let the music wash over her. This was why she still came to the street corner every week. Not for the fame or the recognition, but for moments like this when music proved that different did not mean enemy. After her performance, Lucy was approached by a young human girl who reminded her of herself 5 years ago. The girl carried a small guitar and looked nervous but determined. "Miss Lucy, I want to learn to play like you do," the girl said. "I want to make music that brings people together." Lucy smiled and knelt down to the girl's level. "What is your name, Emma?" the girl replied. "I have been practicing guitar for 2 years, but I want to learn how to play for aliens too." Lucy handed Emma her original violin, the same one that had started the whole adventure. "Hold this for a moment and tell me what you feel." Emma closed her eyes and held the violin carefully. "I feel like it wants to tell stories. Like it has so many songs inside it waiting to come out." "That is exactly right," Lucy said. "Music is not about the instrument or the notes you play. It is about the stories you want to tell and the feelings you want to share. Keep practicing and remember that the best music comes from caring about your audience." As the crowd began to disperse, Lucy looked up at the sky. She could see several alien ships in the distance, arriving with new students for the Harmony Academy. Tomorrow there would be new faces to meet, new cultures to learn about, and new musical bridges to build. But for now, she was content to be exactly where she had always been. A street performer with a violin, sharing music with anyone who wanted to listen. Some things were too important to ever change.